Hello, everyone. With Visual Studio Code, you can create custom snippets, and I really like to have custom snippets for my Flutter applications. And in this video, I thought to show you how you can create a custom snippet to set up your own manual, like favorite Flutter scaffold application. Because as you know, when you create a Flutter application with Flutter Create, it will just go and create an application from a template. And that template has a lot of code. So usually what I end up doing is that I create an application with Flutter Create. Then I have to spend a few, maybe just 20, 30 seconds to customize that and make it my own. And the way I usually go about doing that is I go and strip off all the homepage stuff. And then I go inside the main function and return and do the run app and return the material, blah, blah, blah. And so it's a whole process. So, and I do that, or at least I used to do that every time I created a Flutter project with Flutter Create. So that was before I started working with Visual Studio Code snippets, and they're very, very useful because you can customize exactly what that snippet contains. So in this tutorial, I thought to show you how you can create a Visual Studio Code snippet that has your own dream Flutter project template. So let's have a look at that. So what are snippets? Snippets, as their name indicates, I mean, if you're a programmer from before, you probably already know what snippets are, but they're just like reusable bits and pieces of code. It's kind of like Lego bricks that you can buy the ones that you want and customize them and build them exactly how you like. So code snippets are just literally keyboard shortcuts for bringing in more text than you could basically type in that same amount of time. So what we could do is to first go ahead and create a code snippet in Visual Studio Code. So I'll show you how it's done. Let me change the screen layout a little bit. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio, a terminal here. And I'm right now in this folder, but you can be wherever you want, wherever you prefer to create your Flutter projects. And I'm just going to create a folder here. Let's actually say Flutter create testing snippets. Okay. I'm going to say org se pixology, and you don't have to do the org part. This is just a habit. So that is going to create a Flutter project for me here. And I'm going to resize the window so you see the entire thing. Then I'm going to say cd testing snippets. And let's bring up Visual Studio Code and have a look at what is happening here. So I want to increase the size of Visual Studio Code to quite ginormous, so it's quite visible. Then I'm going to go to the main Dart file, and you probably are already familiar with like some of the other built-in snippets in Visual Studio Code, like STL, which creates a stateless widget. So if I just bring that up, you can see that it allows me to type, and it like literally replaces in another place as well. So this is like injecting a variable inside a template, but sorry, it's a snippet. So STL is like the shortcut for that snippet. And then you can see that it will bring up all the snippets that match that criteria. So in order to create a snippet in Visual Studio Code, you have to bring up the snippets configuration file. And the way to do that on a Macintosh is with Command-Shift-P. And then in here, you will just type snippet, which is configure user snippets. Or if you're on Linux and Windows, you can just say Control-Shift-P and then type snippet to go to preferences, configure user snippets, okay? So I'm just going to go there, and in here you can see you can create different like snippet files. And here I've created a flutter.code snippets, but you can create a new one. If you haven't done this before, then you have to say new global snippets file and just give it a name. And here I've just called it Flutter. So I've basically done a new global snippets file, and then I said Flutter, but just so I can demonstrate it to you. So I'm just going to say new global snippets file, and let's just call it Flutter scaffold or something like this. Okay. And then you'll see this is like the structure of that file. It should kind of like every snippet should be so basically it is as you can see, is a JSON object in here. And it says that, well, yeah, you can then create like, let's see, an array somewhere. If you have a look here, example, print description. Okay, so here. So the name is just the name of the snippet. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go in here and just say my custom snippet. Okay. And you can see that there is a key in here, and that is the scope. Basically, it tells like in which files, which type of files this snippet is valid. So we just want this snippet, for instance, to be available in any file that ends with the Dart extension. So I'm just going to say Dart. You can see other examples like JavaScript, TypeScript. So maybe it's not actually the file extension, it is actually the file type. So JavaScript and TypeScript are not extensions because TypeScript files end with TS and JavaScript files end with JS. So it's just the file type. So I'm assuming like if you want a custom snippet for Python, you would just type Python instead of Py. So let's just go ahead and say we want to have a Dart scope. So let's just give it a key of scope like this. And then you'll see that it says, oh, body is missing. So we'll go ahead and create a body for it. And we'll just say, hello world, something like that. Okay. So now it's happy. It's not giving us any errors. And then you can see you can do other things like a prefix and then a description. And this prefix is like what you actually type inside your editor to get this snippet up and running. So in here, let's just say HLW as in hello world. Okay, so that is, it's a prefix. Okay, so HLW. And I'm just going to save this file. So it's just called my custom snippet. Let's just rename this to hello world snippet, Dart snippet. I saved that file. Then I'm going to go back to this main Dart file in here, and I'm just going to type that little prefix HLW. Okay, so let's just say HLW, and you can see that it says hello world Dart snippet. And if I click on it, it will just replace it with hello world. So that's great. That's great and all, but hello world on its own is not so meaningful. So what we want to do is to create a snippet that we can, every time that we create a new Flutter application, it will basically, we will just be able to replace the entire main Dart file with that snippet. Okay, so let's just create our own dream snippet in here, which is our application. So the way I like to do it is to go ahead here, get rid of all these comments in here. That's what I usually like to do, like that. And I'm going to say homepage in here. Don't pass any title. Okay, so that's the way I like to do it. You have to find the way that you like to basically create your home pages. So I'm going to say in here, a new stateless widget, Flutter stateless widget. I'm just going to call it homepage. Okay. And in here, I like to just return a scaffold. And then I'm going to say app bar. And then I'm going to say again, app bar title. And for the title, I'm just going to say hello world. I think it's also a text. And then I'm going to say this is a const. Okay. And that's it, really. So that's my homepage. It just has a scaffold and an app bar. And so this is not a Flutter specific video, really. But I mean, it's not a video that we're going to go into details about how to write Flutter applications. That's what I mean. So then I'm going to grab this material app. This is how I like to do it. I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to kill my app basically here. I'm going to put my Flutter application in here. So like that. And I'm going to remove that. Theme data perhaps could be const, or no, that can't be const either. Okay. So this is basically the way I like to create my application. So it's just the material app in main function inside run app. And then it has a homepage. So that's my like dream scaffold. I kind of wish like I could create a template for Flutter Create to be able to use this every time I create a project. But yeah, we could also just say homepage here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this exactly as it is. So let's just copy that entire content. Then we're going to go back in here. So let's go in here, make sure that scope is still Dart. And you can see this is a string, so we can't like paste our entire application in here because even our application contains other strings and even like new lines in here. So we can't go ahead and just paste it entirely in this body. And the good thing about this body is that it allows you to create an array. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be one line of string. So what we're going to do in here is just going to say body is just an array. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that entire text in here. So let's just say like this. Okay. So let's have a look at how it looks like. Yeah. Seems fine. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the size of this a little bit so you see the content entirely and what I'm doing with it. So what we can do in here is to go ahead and see if we can get Visual Studio Code to make sure every line in this body is a string. So you have to make sure that every line in here is a string like this. So begin with a quotation mark, end with a quotation mark, and then a comma. And an empty line will be just empty quotation marks and comma. But this is quite time consuming if you want to do it like line by line. So thankfully, there's a better way of doing that. And that is on a Macintosh, if you hold down Command and Option, and I believe on a Windows machine and a Linux machine, it would be Alt, Control and Alt instead of Command and Option on a Macintosh. So Command and Option on a Macintosh, and then just begin from the start of the first line and then press the down arrow on your keyboard. So just like this, you can see it just does it like this. All right. And I can see in here, I have a little bit of in here, I would really like this to start here. So then I'm gonna do it like this and then press double quotes. So it inserts double quotes at the end of every line, at the beginning of every line. Then I'm going to jump to the end with Command Right on a Macintosh or Control Right on a Linux machine or a Windows machine, and then type quotation mark comma. So that basically creates the strings for you. So let's have a look at what it is complaining about. Invalid characters. Okay, that's fine. And then in here, we're going to remove that. Let's see what it actually is complaining about. So invalid characters, control characters must be escape. Control characters. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. That is fine. So does it mean like there's something wrong with these? Perhaps. Could it be that there's okay, so is it something wrong with some sort of a tab or perhaps? But it's not oh, it's space there. I see. So there are spaces in there, but there's tabs in here. So it just doesn't like the idea of tabs. So because I'm using tab characters, but I could be using space characters. So this is very interesting because the way it was basically run here, maybe it wasn't formatted properly. So let me have a look here. Here there are spaces, but there were tabs. So let me copy this content again, and I'm going to undo all of these, and then I'm going to go here and go and paste that stuff in there. Let's have a look at see. Yeah, these are still tabs, unfortunately. So for some reason, they're being placed in as tabs, but here they're fine. So what we could do is not play with the formatting so much. So I'm just going to leave it right there, and I'm going to let Visual Studio Code to fix the tabbing for me. So once again, Control Alt, Command Alt down or Control Alt would be on a Macintosh would be a Command Option, and on a Linux machine or Windows it would be Control and Alt. So quotation marks go at the end, quotation marks, comma, and that is now created. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this, or maybe even indent it like this. So now we created that scaffold without a problem. Actually, I can't say without a problem. There were so many problems, but the important thing is that there can't be any tabs in here. Apparently, Visual Studio Code doesn't like that. So, and we're going to also change this prefix now from HLW. Let's just call it my scaffold or something, or my scaffold. Okay. But remember, prefix is the text that you have to write inside your editor to get the suggestion to insert your snippet in Visual Studio Code. So my scaffold, and in here, we're just going to call it my scaffold as well. My Flutter scaffold. Okay, that's a name that you will see in the IntelliSense later. So now we have the Flutter scaffold code snippet that is globally created for Flutter applications. So what you can do in here is just whenever you create a new project that looks kind of like this. So this is like the code that you end up with whenever you do Flutter create. You want to be able to replace all of that with your Flutter scaffold. So let's basically test this out. So what you will do then after Flutter create is done, you will just select everything and just remove it. And then have a look at the prefix. We call it my scaffold. So let's go in here and just type my scaffold. Boom. There we go. And then it inserts all that for you. So instead of having to mess with the defaults like template, you could just go ahead and do this. And I found this a lot easier than having to go and mess with Flutter's default template. So I use this every day when I create when I create a piece of code that I know it's going to be reused many times, maybe in different projects. um, if that code is like so small that it could just literally be a scaffold like this, sorry, it could literally be a snippet. For instance, this is not a code that you would go and put inside a package to reuse in different projects because it's just a basic scaffold. So when you stumble upon these cases, you can go ahead and use snippets in Visual Studio Code. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Have a great day.